In 2002, a National Park Service biologist working in Great Smoky Mountains National Park turned over a hemlock branch and found what looked like a few specks of cotton lint stuck to the underside of the needles, roughly the size of a pinhead. Woolly, white, immobile. The park contains over 800 acres of old-growth hemlock, more than any other national park in the country, and 90,000 additional acres of younger hemlock forest. Most of it is gone now. That is the animal at number 1 on this list, and almost every hiker in the southern Appalachians has walked directly beneath it, thousands of times, without ever looking up. Which is the organizing idea here. Appalachia is a landscape people move through casually. Trails, creek crossings, back porches, wood piles, the 100 yards between a car and a cabin door. It is walked more comfortably than almost any wild country in America. So the ranking today is not by venom and not by hospital admissions. It is by concealment, how completely something disappears into ground that people cross without thinking, weighted by what it does once it is there. That produces an order some viewers will dispute. A seriously painful bite sits near the bottom. The top 2 slots go to animals that cannot injure a person in any way, because between them they are deleting 2 tree species from this forest. Say your piece in the comments. And yes, ticks are arachnids, they are here regardless. 10 down to 1. Number 10, the wheel bug. Start with something that hides in a way nothing else on this list attempts. The wheel bug is North America's largest assassin bug, running roughly 1.5 inches in length, and it carries a structure no other insect in the United States possesses. A raised, serrated crest on its thorax that looks exactly like half a cogwheel, gear teeth and all. It should be the most conspicuous insect in Appalachia. It is not, because the rest of it is a flat gunmetal gray-brown that vanishes against bark and dead stems, and because it moves slowly and deliberately on long, spindly legs. Extension entomologists describe it as fairly common but rarely seen, shy, cryptically colored, and easily missed on the trunk you just put your hand on. It is a predator. It grabs prey with raptorial front legs and drives in a curved beak, injecting saliva that liquefies the tissue inside, then drinks the result. Turned on a human finger, that produces something described in the literature as usually more severe than a bee sting. First-hand accounts describe an initial sensation like a small electric shock, followed within a minute by a sharp burning that spreads, pain that lasts many minutes, then numbness at the site that can persist for days. A 1924 paper in the Journal of the Washington Academy of Sciences documented a case where the puncture sites developed horn-like growths and the affected finger was still running warmer than the others a year later. 10th, because it is a beneficial predator with no interest in people, and it bites only when handled. But it establishes the pattern, the rest of this follows. What injures? You here is motionless, silent, and already close enough to touch. Number 9, the hellgrammite. 9th lives under the rock you just stepped on to cross the creek. The hellgrammite is the larval stage of the eastern Dobson fly, and it is one of the strangest looking animals in Appalachian water, up to 3 inches, dark, flattened, segmented, fringed along both sides with feathery gill tufts, and equipped with a pair of forward-facing pincers it is entirely willing to use. It spends up to 3 years in that larval stage, hidden beneath stones in fast, clean, well-oxygenated riffles, which is precisely where people wade, where children flip rocks, and where anglers reach in to collect them, because a hellgrammite is one of the best smallmouth baits in these mountains. The pinch is genuinely painful and can draw blood. There is no venom involved, it is purely mechanical, a set of strong mandibles on an animal built to hold onto struggling prey. 9th, because that is the extent of it. No toxin, no illness, no follow-up. It is here for what it represents. Everything in this video that people actually meet, they meet by reaching into a place they could not see into first. Number 8, the European hornet. 8th is a large insect that hides by operating at a time when nobody is looking. The European hornet is the only true hornet established in North America. It arrived in the mid-1800s. It is well over 1 inch long, brown with yellow markings, and it builds papery nests inside hollow trees, wall voids, attics, and barn walls, all enclosed spaces unlike the exposed gray football of a bald-faced hornet. 2 behaviors make it genuinely unusual. The first is that it forages at night and is strongly attracted to lights, which produces the classic Appalachian encounter. A heavy, loud impact against a lit window or porch screen after dark, repeatedly from something far larger than any insect that should be flying at that hour. The second is that it strips bark. European hornets girdle the twigs and branches of shrubs and young trees to get at the sap and to gather fiber, and homeowners frequently find the damage without ever identifying the cause. Near the nest, they are defensive and they sting repeatedly. Away from it, they are relatively indifferent. Eighth, because the risk is concentrated at a nest most people never locate. But note the mechanism, because it recurs. The animal is not hiding its body, it is hiding its schedule. Number 7. The hickory tussock moth caterpillar. Seventh is white, fluffy, and moves slowly enough that children can catch it easily. The hickory tussock caterpillar is covered in dense white hair with a row of black tufts down its back and long black hair pencils projecting from either end. Late summer into fall, it is abundant on hickory, walnut, oak, and ash throughout the Appalachian region, and it descends from the canopy to wander across trails, driveways, playground equipment, and porch rails looking for a place to pupate. It looks like a small, ornamental brush. It looks handleable. That is the entire problem. The hairs are urticating. They break off in skin and produce an itching, burning rash that can persist for days, with some people developing hives or more pronounced allergic reactions. Contact with the eyes is a genuine medical issue. And because the caterpillar is slow and conspicuous and arrives at ground level, the exposure population skews heavily toward children. Seventh, because most reactions resolve on their own, and the fix is mundane. Adhesive tape pressed on and pulled off to extract the embedded hairs, then whatever you would reach for after a run-in with poison ivy. It ranks this high on one factor alone. Of everything covered to this point, it is the one that travels downward to meet people. Number 6. The yellow sac spider. Sixth is inside the house right now, and it hunts at night. The yellow sac spider is small, under half an inch, pale yellow to greenish with slightly darker jaws. It does not build a web to catch prey. It spins a small, silken retreat, a sack in a corner, along a ceiling line, in the fold of a curtain, behind a picture frame in bedding. It spends daylight in that sack and comes out after dark to hunt on foot, which is why the bite pattern is what it is. Most yellow sac spider bites happen when the spider is trapped against skin, in a sleeve, in a sheet, in clothing left on the floor. It is genuinely one of the more common causes of spider bite in North American homes, and the bite is often described as producing a sharp initial sting, redness, and swelling. It has been suspected of causing minor necrotic lesions, though that association is disputed in the medical literature and is far weaker than in the case of a true recluse. Sixth, because the outcome is usually a sore, itchy welt and nothing more. It earns its place on location. It is not hiding in the forest. It is hiding in the room where you sleep. Halfway. Everything above here is either something that has been living quietly at your ankles for decades, or something that arrived recently and is currently rewriting the mountains. Number 5. The buck moth caterpillar. Fifth is a genuinely venomous animal sitting in the exact leaf litter these mountains are made of. A mature buck moth caterpillar runs somewhat over 2 inches. The ground color ranges from a deep purple-black through to a muddy yellow-brown, flecked all over with pale dots, and the head is distinctly rust-colored. Rising off every segment are branched projections tipped in sharp spines, and each spine is hollow, fed by its own gland of venom underneath. It feeds on oak and willow, which in Appalachia means it is in the dominant canopy species across enormous areas. And it feeds gregariously, in groups, which converts a single, unlucky contact into multiple simultaneous stings. The sting produces immediate burning pain, redness, welts, and swelling that can radiate outward, with some people developing nausea or more systemic responses. Fifth, because in most of Appalachia it is genuinely uncommon, an animal a person could hike these mountains for 30 years and never meet, but it makes a distinction the top of this list depends on. Danger and encounter rate are 2 different measurements. The buck moth is one of the most venomous things in this video and one of the least likely to reach you. The next 4 invert that completely. Number 4. The black-legged tick nymph. Fourth is a poppy seed with an anesthetic. Everyone here knows about ticks. The part that does not land is which life stage does the damage. It is not the adult that people scan for. Most Lyme transmission in this region traces to the nymph, and a nymph measures out at roughly the width of a printed full stop. Stack up what that animal is doing at once. It sits below the threshold of casual vision. It waits at shin height on leaf litter and low stems, rather than pursuing anything. Its saliva contains a numbing agent. so neither the attachment nor the meal registers as sensation. And its season lands in early summer, when legs are bare, because infection generally requires it to stay attached across a full day. The defense reduces to an absurd proposition: locate something imperceptible, invisible, and unannounced before tomorrow. Found in time, the treatment is a short antibiotic course, and the matter closes. Overlooked, and a good share of patients never get the ring-shaped rash that would have tipped them off, the infection migrates into joints, cardiac tissue, and nerves. That is before accounting for the other pathogens this species moves: anaplasmosis, babesiosis, and the rare but untreatable Powassan virus. Fourth, and no higher, because at least it is a recognized adversary. Households across Appalachia have a tick routine. The 3 entries above it have no routine at all, because most people have never heard of them. Number 3, the Asian long-horned tick. Third arrived recently, and it does something no native tick in these mountains can do. It reproduces without males. The Asian longhorned tick is native to East Asia. It was formally reported in New Jersey in 2017, though later work found it had been present in West Virginia since at least 2010. It has since been confirmed in more than 20 states, concentrated through the Appalachian corridor and now pushing into New England and westward. It is small, light brown, and unremarkable, and it looks like an ordinary tick, which is a meaningful part of why it went undetected for years. The reproduction is the story. United States populations are parthenogenetic. A single-fed female can lay up to 2,000 eggs without ever encountering a male, which means one tick carried on one animal into one new pasture is a founding population. The consequences are already documented. In 2021, a researcher responding to a call from an eastern Ohio farm where 3 cattle had died collected more than 9,000 of these ticks in 90 minutes using cloth and lint rollers, and estimated the 25-acre property held over 1 million. The cattle had not died of disease, they had been bled to death. The tick also transmits Theileria orientalis akita, a protozoan parasite causing anemia, abortion, and death in cattle, with no treatment for the disease itself. The reassurance, and it is real. This tick appears far less interested in human skin than native species, and its documented human bites are uncommon. Third, then, on a criterion of concealment. It looks like every other tick. It clones itself into densities nobody has seen here before, and it is doing it across working farmland in the same hollows where these families have run cattle for generations. Number 2, the emerald ash borer. Second cannot hurt a person in any way, and it has killed more Appalachian trees than everything below it combined. The emerald ash borer is a metallic green beetle about half an inch long, native to northeastern Asia, first identified in Michigan in 2002. The adult is genuinely beautiful and almost never seen. The larvae are what matter, and they are invisible by design. They live under the bark, feeding in the phloem, the tissue that transports sugars from the leaves to the rest of the tree, and they carve winding S-shaped galleries through it. Enough galleries, and the tree is girdled from the inside. It cannot move nutrients. It dies from the top down. By the time the outward signs appear, thinning crown, bark splitting, D-shaped exit holes, woodpeckers stripping bark to get at the larvae, the tree has usually been infested for years. The result across the eastern United States has been the functional collapse of ash as a canopy species, hundreds of millions of trees. In Appalachian forests, white ash and green ash stands have been effectively removed, and the wood, which was the standard material for tool handles, baseball bats, and traditional basketry, has become scarce. Second, and not first for one reason, the ash was a component of these forests. The tree at number 1 was a foundation. Number 1, the hemlock woolly adelgid. And first, a wingless, aphid-like insect the size of a pinhead that cannot bite, cannot sting, and is dismantling the southern Appalachian forest. It appears as small, white, woolly masses on the underside of hemlock branches at the base of the needles. That is the whole visible presence, something that looks like lint, or a smear of wax, or a bit of spider silk. Every hiker in these mountains has walked past it. Almost nobody has registered it as an animal. 2 facts make it what it is. The first is the reproduction. In its native range in Asia, the life cycle requires a spruce host for sexual reproduction. North America has no suitable spruce, so the winged forms fly off and die. What remains are wingless females reproducing asexually, each producing hundreds of genetically identical copies of herself, generation after generation, with the males rendered entirely irrelevant. The second is what it feeds on. It does not eat needles. It inserts its mouthparts at the base of the needle and drains the tree's stored starch reserves, the energy the hemlock has banked to push new growth. Buds die. New growth stops. The crown thins from within, and the tree dies over roughly 3 to 10 years. It reached the eastern United States near Richmond, Virginia, around 1951, probably on ornamental nursery stock from Japan. It reached Great Smoky Mountains National Park in 2002. What happened next was faster than anyone predicted. In the southern Appalachians, old-growth hemlock stands succumbed within a few years of first infestation. The largest known eastern hemlock in the world, the Caldwell giant, was dead from this insect before it was even formally discovered. And the eastern hemlock is what ecologists call a foundation species. It is not one tree among many. It shades the headwater streams, holds them cold and stable, and keeps the light and nitrogen chemistry of those creeks within the range that Appalachian brook trout and aquatic invertebrates evolved in. Research in the Smokies has documented what follows hemlock loss. Canopy cover falls, light and water temperature rise, stream chemistry shifts, and the understory converts largely to rhododendron, which then shades out regeneration and locks the change in place. The insect is limited by one thing, and only one: cold. Very cold winters can crash its populations, and temperature is what has restricted it in the north. Warming winters are removing that limit. Look back down the ranking, and it runs opposite to every warning sign ever posted at a trailhead. The bottom half is what people fear: the pincers, the crest, the venom, the sting. Real, painful, and almost entirely avoidable. The top half is what is actually happening. And the two animals doing the most damage to these mountains cannot hurt a human being at all. They are not predators, they are not venomous, and they have no interest in anyone walking past. One drains starch from a branch, the other tunnels under bark. Between them, they are removing two entire tree species from a forest that has been assembling itself since the last glaciation, which is the part that will never fit on a trail sign. These mountains are not being altered by anything dramatic. They are being altered by something the size of a pinhead, reproducing without a mate, clinging to the underside of a branch, working at a pace that never needed to be quick, because nothing in this hemisphere evolved to stop it. And that is the common thread running through the whole top half. Every one of those animals is an arrival. The longhorn tick came from East Asia, the ash borer came from northeastern Asia, the adelgid came from Japan on nursery stock. None of them are hiding in any deliberate sense. They are simply operating inside a system that has no answer for them, in a landscape where nothing recognizes them as a problem until the damage is structural. The native species on the bottom half of this list have been here as long as the forest has. They have predators, parasites, population crashes, and limits. The things at the top have almost none of that. Whether the hemlocks that remain in the Smokies survive on chemical treatment and released predator beetles, or whether this becomes the second time in a century that a foundation tree vanished from these mountains, is not settled yet. The American chestnut went first, a century ago, taken by an imported blight, once 1 in 4 canopy trees across these mountains, now functionally gone. Nobody stopped that one either. What is settled is that the forest people photograph is not the forest that was here in 1990, that the streams are already running warmer where the shade came down, and that on the trail somebody will walk tomorrow morning at eye level on the underside of a branch, there is something that looks like a smear of cotton and is not. It has been there the whole time. Nobody has ever had a reason to look.